Well, welcome to the newest edition of the Herb of the Week with me, your host, Stephanie Georgiev. I'm also the instructor for the Botanical Medicine Study Course, an online class exploring all things botanical medicine. What makes this course unique is I'm approaching it through plant families and human systems, how plant families interact with humans in body, soul, and spirit. If you would like a free introductory lesson for the course, please email me at the address in the program notes, and I will send you the link for the video and handouts. Well, we are well into January and winter at the time of the posting of this video. And all over the Northern Hemisphere, while the pandemic seems to have morphed into something different, the cold and flu season is rip-roaring one this year and everywhere. And while vaccine manufacturers race to find genetic sequences to combat the new variants of various viruses, and governments relax COVID restrictions, there are ways to help boost your own immunity during these cold days. And we can do that with certain gifts from nature. In the next few videos, I will be covering some common and not so common herbs that have been used for centuries to help either shorten the time of a cold or to prevent one in the first place. Please note, I am not saying these herbs will replace vaccines, nor am I telling my viewers to either obtain or refrain from vaccines. Vaccines are a personal decision that should be made by an individual under the guidance of a qualified healthcare professional. What I am saying is that in many cases, the chemical constituents of herbs are the basis for many pharmaceuticals and can be used for prevention as well as the treatment for common colds and flus. As always, I urge you, my viewers, to make your own decisions based on sound information. And while many sources of public information, such as my beloved Wikipedia, often say, quote, "there is no evidence that herb X works," unquote, a simple PubMed search offers ample evidence to the contrary. For this week's Herb of the Week, we will be exploring one of my favorite herbs, elder. As some of you may know, I am currently living in southwestern Bulgaria these days, in a rural area of the Struma River Valley. This is a rich agricultural region which combines farmland and forests. Two plants which are ubiquitous in the area surrounding where I live are hawthorn and elderberry. This past summer, I was literally going crazy with so many elderberries growing everywhere. It was like a weed, and the berries were simply dying on the vine. There was so much of it. I was able to pick many basketfuls from a friend's yard in our village and made some really good elderberry syrup. We plan to plant quite a few elders in the garden we are creating at my house, and I am also planning to harvest the wild elder next year, making quite a bit of syrup with the local honey from all of the hives in my neighbors' yards. The Latin term for the European elder, and note there are a couple elders, which is the European elder is what most products you will find in the health food stores and online. The Latin name for that is Sambucus nigra, and this is a species of complex flowering plants in the family of Adanexia, which is native to most of Europe. And you can see that in your little map there. Common names for this species include elder, elderberry, black elder, European elderberry, European black elderberry. There's also a Native American elder, and it's called Sambucus canadensis, and that is actually has many of the same properties as the European elder. Now, the American elder grows wild in fields and meadows, and it gets up to 10 to 12 feet or 3 to 4 meters tall. The European variety is significantly taller than the American variety, which is unique. Usually Americans are much taller than Europeans. And there is also a red elderberry, which is called Sambucus racemosa, which is similar to the American species with one important difference. The brilliant berries, which are more magenta in color, produces a poison which can make you either extraordinarily sick or die. So, FYI, know your plants well before eating wild anything. Now, the Adanexia family, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, but I can pronounce this one. It's called the Moscatel, which sounds like a sweet wine, if you ask me, is a small group of flowering plants in the order of Dipsacales, which is now, this family consists, for those of you who have been watching this botanical transformation of taxonomy, of 5 genera, and is made up of about 150 to 200 species. Now, those physical botanical taxonomists keep themselves constantly occupied by changing names and criteria for botanical families, which makes finding information from older textbooks and older scientific articles quite the treasure hunt, let me tell you. In older classifications, this entire family was part of the Caparophyceae family, or the honeysuckle family. Adoxa, which is Moscatel, was the first plant to be moved to this new group. Much later, the genre Sambucus, which is elders, and Viburnum, which includes things like crampbark, were added after careful morphological analysis and biochemical tests by the Angiosperm phylogeny group. For those of you who are interested in looking for something to do, the Angiosperm phylogeny group, or the APG as those in the know like to call them, is an informal international group of systemic botanists who collaborate to establish a consensus on the taxonomy of flowering plants. And the botanical term for flowering plants is called angiosperm. And this consensus reflects new knowledge about plant relationships. And this new knowledge is discovered through phylogenetic studies. Talk about a niche group. I'm sure their potlucks are amazing, but I digress. A question I am often asked that will be on exams, actually, if you sign up for the Botanical Medicine Study course, is what is your favorite herb and why? The other is, if you could only have one plant for healing purposes, what would it be? To be honest, it is a neck and neck competition between lavender and this week's herb of the week, elder. Why? Because both of them taste really good, and also both of them do quite a bit. But actually, elder wins the prize because every part of this plant does quite a bit. And each part of the plant has its own properties that address most minor health challenges. Elderberry is a deciduous shrub or small tree that can grow up to 20 feet tall. The bark is a light gray when young and changes to a coarse gray outer bark with lengthwise furrowing lenticels. Now, for those of you who are Game of Thrones fanatics, and you know the godswood tree and the face on that, that's kind of a morphed lenticel. And a lenticel is a porous tissue covering the cells of the bark of a tree with large intercellular spaces, which is a fancy science term for pores in the bark. The leaves of elder are arranged in opposite pairs, and they're anywhere from 10 to 30 centimeters or 4 to 12 inches long. They're pinnate with 5 to 7 and sometimes 9 leaflets. And each one of the leaflets has a serrated sawtooth margin. And the young stems are actually hollow. Now, the flowers are hermaphrodites, and they have 5 stamens. And you heard me right. These flowers are hermaphrodites, which means they are bisexual, meaning they have both male and female parts. And I think the flowers should be a symbol on a logo for the community they represent. The flowers present themselves in large flat corymbs, and this is another fancy botanical term you will learn more about if you take my class, the Botanical Medicine Study course. And it's also another great Scrabble word because it has lots of consonants. Corymbs, corymbs. And these corymbs bloom in late spring to midsummer. The individual flowers are ivory white in color, and they're very small. They're quite beautiful, I think, with 5 little petals. And when you look at the flowers up close, you can see why they used to be in the honeysuckle family, but because of that phylogeny taxonomy group, the consensus was to move them into the moscatel family. But these flowers have 5 petals and are pollinated by flies and other pollinators. So this is a great butterfly and bee attractor for your garden. Now, the fruit is a glossy, dark purple to black berry, and it can be 3 to 5 millimeters in diameter. And that's probably about 1/8 of an inch around. And it produces in drooping clusters in the late autumn. And it's really beautiful, especially when they're all over the place. This beautiful, it's like a painting of purple and green. It's just gorgeous. And the dark color of the elderberry fruit comes from its rich phenolic content, and particularly from anthocyanins, which are those chemicals that nutritionists want us to eat lots of because they are really, really healthy. Now, this is from a lovely YouTube video, and I've given you the link to this because it's really informative and they do a much better job than I could ever do. And it's called Air to Air, the YouTube channel. But anthocyanins make fruits and vegetables a beautiful range of colors from red to purple to blue and black. Now, anthocyanins possess characteristics and processes that are anti-diabetic, anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and also anti-obesity. And these substances also prevent cardiovascular disease because they help combat cholesterol, excess cholesterol. And they also help the cholesterol not oxidize. And cholesterol in and of itself is not the problem. It's the oxidation of the cholesterol, which is called oxysterol. And that is the culprit that causes things like heart attacks and strokes. So if you eat a lot of anthocyanins, and for us lay people, that means a rainbow colored diet, you're going to be really healthy. And the anthocyanins, which make these beautiful berries of elder, such a gorgeous dark purple color, are one reason why elderberries are so healthy and so healing. Now, there are 3 parts of the elder that are medicinal. The leaf, here, which shows you the pinnate sawtooth structure of the leaves, and the corymbs of the flower. So the leaves are healing, the flower's healing, and the drooping clusters of the berries. These are all very, very healing in and of themselves. Now, the leaf is interesting in terms of how it can be used as a natural insect repellent. So historically, people would rub themselves with crushed leaves before going outside during peak mosquito and midgie season. And a fun thing to do to garden apprentices is to start whipping them with the elder leaf branches as part of their initiation process, and to tell them it's actually good for them. But if you don't want to do that, or you don't want to rub yourselves with crushed leaves, you can make a decoction, which is a fancy herbal term for boiling your tea instead of steeping it. And you make a decoction of the young leaves, and you can use this to sprinkle over yourself or delicate plants and the buds of flowers to keep off attacks from aphids and minute caterpillars. So that, I think, is a lovely thing to do if you're looking for a natural insect repellent. It doesn't kill them, it just repels them. Apparently it tastes really bad to the bugs. And the leaf is also purgative, which is a fancy herbal term that if something is a purgative, it makes you vomit or poop. And it also has diuretic properties, which makes you pee, but it's mostly useful as a vulnerary. And a vulnerary is a fancy herbal term that you'll learn more about if you sign up for the Botanical Medicine Study course. And vulnerary means it heals the skin and is a good first aid remedy for minor cuts and bruises. Now, the flowers make a delicious tea and are great cold and flu remedies in that they make you sweat. They have diaphoretic properties, not diuretic, diaphoretic, which means it makes you sweat. And sweating helps reduce a fever. So the flowers are really good at reducing fevers. They also help reduce mucus and are good for healing wet coughs and runny noses. Now, the berries also have the same properties as the flowers, but they also help as a gentle laxative. Most of the elder products on the herbal market are from either the berries alone or a mixture of the berries and flowers. There's a long tradition in Europe of making wines, cordials, jams, and syrups from both the flowers and the berries, or the berries alone. And in the village next to where I live, they have an open air market, a bazaar on Wednesdays, and all of these ancient, amazing humans come out from the mountains and they sell elder flowers, like in teas, but they also sell the syrup that they make themselves, and it's really good for you, and it's really fun to watch these people do that. Now, there's also a lot of products on the market, as I said, that are made from the berries alone or a mixture of the berries and flowers. And if you have access to the plant or put it in your garden, making your own syrup or jam is the best way to get the benefits of elder. And if you can't get the fresh berries, or you don't want to or can't plant it in your garden, you can also get dried berries and dried flowers, and you can make things out of those as well. You can do all kinds of things. So I've included a recipe for making your own honey-based syrup and also own gummy bears in the program notes. So check that out. And for those of you who want to be Wikipedians and update some of the information on the Wikipedia page for Sambucus nigra, a simple search through PubMed or Google Scholar will show the extensive historical as well as up-to-date scientific research on how effective elder is for the treatment of viruses. And some of the more active chemical constituents are listed on this slide. And I'm not going to even try to pronounce a lot of these because nobody will be able to find them based on my pronunciation. But know that quercetin, rutin, astragalene, all of those are really, really healthy. And you can also find those isolated in supplements. So why not put them all together in a elderberry product that you make your own? So in terms of flu and viral infections, the main mechanism of the elderberry is what I like to call birth control for viruses. And elderberry acts like a condom, if you will, making cells slippery or impenetrable to viruses. Elderberry acts by blocking entry of the virus into the cell. Now, to get a viral infection, the virus attaches itself to a cell and injects its RNA into the cell, and then the replication of the virus occurs from there. Now, all of you that have been staring at your computer and watching public service announcements during the 2 years of lockdown should be experts in viral physiology. So this should be familiar to you, this whole concept of mRNA and viral replication and stuff like that. So, but if you watched some public service announcements, please do not drink bleach or put light bulbs up your anus or trachea. That's not healthy. I would recommend elder syrup. So, as I said, what elderberries do is prevent this replication. And in numerous studies that you can find with simple Google searches on PubMed or Google Scholar, what elder does is it either prevents getting the viral infection or it halves the time of the infection, meaning if you get a 10-day flu, it'll last 5 days. If you get a 5-day flu, it'll last 2.5 days, and so on. Elder is a great herb to take all winter long because we're all exposed to viruses all the time. And the key is to make your body inhospitable to bugs. The best way to stay healthy in the winter during cold and flu season is to get plenty of rest, wash your hands frequently, reduce sugar intakes, meaning no extra sugar other than fruits and vegetables, and sweeten things with natural sweeteners such as monk fruit, stevia, and honey in moderate amounts. Fresh fruits and vegetables, especially citrus, which is in season during the winter, if you can get a hold of that, should be eaten regularly. And this multicolored diet for those anthocyanins and the sugars the body knows what to do with in natural fruits and vegetables. And also, you can take a couple spoonfuls of elder syrup a day or drink some elder flower and elderberry tea daily. So however you want to, in your garden, making your own syrups or teas or buying some of the amazing products on the market, I hope you enjoy elder as a regular part of your winter wellness regimen. Please look at the program notes for links for recipes, garden notes, and more. Also, if you would like to learn more about the botanical medicine study course or botanical medicine in general, please email me, Stephanie, at botanical medicine study at Gmail. And the link is in the program notes. And I will send you a link for a free introductory lesson and handouts. This is Stephanie Georgiev saying thanks so much for sharing your valuable time with me. And until next time, be well.